Marty, it's a new era. We're in a new era in Canada, and people are excited.
Well, is it a new era? I mean, some people are making it out to be a new era. For me, what's changed from say 3 months ago?
I'll show you some people who are excited about the new era. Let's get into this. Here's a couple from,
God.
I'm guessing somewhere in Ontario. I'm not sure, but they're excited about this new era. It's brand new, and it's making them happy.
Woo-hoo! Canada, you did it. You chose hope over hate. Unity over division.
Trump, take note. This is what democracy looks like.
Marc Carney is the leader of Canada and what the world needs right now.
Someone that's ready to stand strong against Trump and defend democracy.
Tonight, Canada sent a message. Tyranny doesn't win here. Fear doesn't win here. Division doesn't win here.
Canada just proved it to the world. We chose strength. We chose unity. We chose each other.
We're proud, we're hopeful, and we're just getting started.
Are you happy with the result? Woohoo!
Marty, I think we got to get into that whiskey bottle early.
Oh, by the way, we're even, right? So for the viewers, we're even, right? It was a double or nothing. I won the bet on when the election. Clyde won the bet on the results of the election. Or did you? Yeah, you called him. Yeah. So we're even. So yeah. That a video like that's cringe. Like just a couple of things. Of course it's cringe, right? But think about what they said. Like she said democracy won or whatever. Okay. Like you can't say Canada's a democracy after what we just went through. Like Carney was installed for prime minister with 150,000 people voting for him and as a consequence of proroguing parliament, and somehow or other you're going to brag that Canada is showing to the world what democracy looks like, and then
they got to pick when the election would be.
And you're slamming Trump, who won, and 70 million people actually voted for Trump.
Yes.
So like, come on, folks, like don't that's no.
And then there's the other part. Then there's the fact that there's not equal representation in Canada. So
yeah,
Carney won with the Maritimes, Ontario, and Quebec voting him in. It was west of Ontario. It was majority conservatives. That's just how it's been. It's been this way for a long time. People voted in 2015 on the promise that would change under the Liberals. They got a majority with Justin Trudeau. He reneged on that promise, and then later lamented on the fact that, I didn't think it was fair when I had a majority. And then as soon as there wasn't a majority, well, then it wasn't fair to Canadians at that time to bring it in. It's like, well, when's it fair? Like if you win on a promise and you get a mandate, you should have done it. But of course, no, this has been positive for the Liberals since he didn't do that, because I think if there was equal representation, I think the West would be making some very different decisions.
Oh, I did it actually a lot to unpack there, but let's remember that one. Yeah, like the popular vote ended up being 42% for the Liberals and 41.6% for the Conservatives. So like you can't, Liberals can't claim this huge victory, not based on the popular vote. The only reason they win in seats is because of the unfair system that exists. I mean, like Alberta with its 4 million people has 34 seats, and the Maritimes combined with their 2.8 million have 53 seats. So it's an average riding in you want to know about how bad it gets. An average riding in PEI has 44,000 people in it. An average riding in Alberta has 125,000 people in it. An average riding in BC has 118,000. So like it's PEI has a 4-1 advantage over us.
And they went fully Liberal. PEI was the one province. I think.
Yeah, and what I wanted to just finish it on is, if we had proper proportional representation and the ridings were evenly distributed based on population, the Conservatives, it would have been a dead heat, a tie, an absolute tie. So and the Conservatives did okay, right? Like that was another graph I showed this week. The share of the popular vote for the Conservatives keeps staying steady in Canada. In fact, it's gone up in recent years. And so the Liberals, in order to keep winning, have to throw everything at us, like to win, right? They have to whatever, plant a new leader when it's convenient, call the election when it's convenient, use the media against us. They even went as far as playing like the dirtiest of politics, which I think what they did to Pierre and his writing, that's just dirty. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no honor among, like there used to be an unwritten rule about you don't attack the leader at his seat. Like you let him win his seat. But, 90 candidates on the ballot in Carleton, come on, folks. Like that's dirty politics.
And he won by he lost by a thin margin too. He didn't lose by like a huge amount. And you could say that really did upset the vote.
Well, they threw money at that one too, because again, don't quote me exactly. I threw that piece of paper away, but the average voter turnout across the country was like 67%. So that meant that Canadians wanted change, right? Big voter turnout. Like we haven't had that kind of turnout since the 1970s. And then, so that's the average. And then you look at writings like where Jagmeet lost, 60% came out. Blanchette got about 60%. Carney got about 70%. So just slightly above the average came out to vote in his writing. Poilievre's writing came out at like 84%. People are like, that's statistically improbable. So how much money did the Liberals throw at that writing? We're talking, go and pick up people by taxi, by Uber, by bus, and bring them to the polling station and force them to vote, because it's a complete outlier at that turnout that they had in Carleton.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And let's be honest, like the Liberals, they won at the expense of the New Democrats. The NDP intentionally tanked this one so that the support would go towards the Liberals.
I think he tanked it on purpose. Yeah, we talked about that, right? Over the behavior of Jagmeet over the last couple of weeks. Like during the debate, he came out as just as a petulant little child, always interrupting. And then on the campaign, he started saying, hey, we're more effective as a minority. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, he threw the campaign.
There was even articles written where he was quoted having said that his whole purpose was to make sure that the Conservatives didn't get elected. Like all of this.
Right.
So, I mean, he got his pension. He got what he wanted. He stuck around for that amount of time. And then see you later. Ditched the party. He ruined everything that everybody's ever worked for the NDP as a party. It is no longer party status. It's just how many people are in? 7 people?
7 or 6 at this point. Well, 7 until 3 of them jump ships and go to the Liberals, which I'm kind of forecasting is going to happen. We'll
so what do you base?
Yeah.
Well, no. What are you basing that on? Like that's
because Carney has 169 votes right now, or 169 seats. So Carney with the NDP informally, if the NDP support him, will get his majority. But if he wants to really secure his majority, all he needs to do is convince 3 NDP MPs to cross the floor. And we know I've heard that that's ongoing, that there's this, all he has to do is offer somebody like
a cabinet position,
or a senior role of some sort, or promise them after this election, I'll give you, make you ambassador to whatever country. So I
had so many people in my replies saying, Clyde, they don't have the mechanism because they're not official party status. They can't do a coalition. It's like, well, how hard is it to buy off a handful of MPs?
No, that's not a fact. They can do a coalition. Like if they don't have official party status, but you can form a coalition with individuals or whatever he wants. And then the other reason some NDP might be tempted by this offer is they're lame ducks otherwise. Like, it's going to suck to be the NDP by losing its status. They don't get staffers. They don't even get offices in the building, like in the Parliament building. Like they almost get nothing. So then operating as an NDP MP will be problematic, and that's what they can say to their constituents. I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's going to be approached, and they're going to go back to their constituents and say, "Hey, I'm more effective if I join the Liberals." Besides, we're talking ethics, and that's not really in the vocabulary of
ethics and politics
yeah.
anymore. Holy cow. They've thrown that one right out the window years ago, especially the NDP.
Now this brings up a good point. So nobody's gone to visit the Governor General at this point, right? So there's all these manipulations going on. Technically, Parliament's not set to resume until the summer, like until May, let's say mid-May. So Carney's right now is dragging his feet. He purposely didn't go to the Governor General and say, give me a crack at forming government. He's trying to do some shenanigans behind the scene. But it's even with an alliance, like his 169 with the NDP puts him pretty thin. Like he's gonna have a hard time passing bills. And then the other problem he has, this is a funny one, is typically the leading party gives up one MP to be the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House on day-to-day business doesn't vote. So if
does it have to be a member of the leading party, or can they?
No, which is why people are saying make it Elizabeth May. Can you imagine?
Well, I gotta show the clips, because Elizabeth May, for people who don't know who she is, she's a nutcase. I mean, she's a basket case for sure. But here she is a number of years ago when she got all liquored up, and well, I mean, you can hear it.
I have a completely deranged and there is no sequitur. This is a non sequitur. Do you guys ever wake up with old theme songs from former black and white TV shows that you never thought your kids would ever see, and they're running through your head? Like every now and then I wake up thinking about, Lisa, you've got to wait. Lisa, I wake up thinking about a horse is a horse, of course. This morning I wake up thinking this. Why am I thinking this? Do you guys wonder? Liz, hang on. You wonder why you're thinking that too. Wait, you know what? Do you guys remember the theme song? Welcome back. Who knew Cotter was spelled K-H-A-D-R? Welcome back, Omar Cotter. It matters to say it. Welcome back, Omar Cotter. You're home.
Hang on, don't cut it yet.
I didn't.
There's a lot unusual about your speech, Liz, but we're going to take off.
Omar Cotter, you got more class than the whole fucking cabinet. Thank you.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. I got audio playing on some other thing. There we go. That was still playing. But
so yeah, she was drunk at a press gallery dinner. She was up speaking. That's Lisa Raitt, who used to be a very popular conservative MP, trying to drag her off stage. In hindsight, everybody's like, Lisa, you should have let her speak. You know, like,
should have let her go.
Yeah.
Well, they let her go at her own
oh no, that's even worse.
Party. So they let her go at this one. I'll let this one play out.
It's my party, so I can sing if I want to.
Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street.
And you hear that
Bitter hat, and that happy tune is yours. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side.
Please don't judge us all like this if you're watching from abroad.
Clyde, can we do one more funny clip? Do you have the one of Marc Carney and his wife at their victory party on Monday night dancing to Weber or whatever that guy was?
Oh, I can find it. Keep talking. I'll get it. Don't worry.
So anyways, yeah. So folks, it weirdly, we've kind of become a two-party system. And so as it stands right now, the Liberals and the NDP aligned are about 172, and the Conservatives and the Bloc aligned are at 172. So nobody has a majority at this point. This is the cringiest thing ever. This is Marc Carney, our new Prime Minister, partying. Actually, I like the other clip where they're doing the elbows up with his wife. That was even cringier. Like, Jesus.
Oh, sure, I can find. There it is.
There, that one. They're singing elbows up.
Elbows up. Like, is this what Canada is going to be remembered as?
It looks like she's pegging someone. Like, that's
Marty, come on. Well, man, I guess well, they had to practice something when they were visiting Epstein Island. But Unbelievable, unbelievably embarrassing. This hopefully the rest of the world's looking at us and they're not thinking this is representative of Canada. Of course, this is what won in the election right now, as we're seeing it. But we're worried about the big worry right now is before they go form government, are they going to do some backdoor deals? Is there going to be backdoor deals? Are they going to be able to form a majority by getting other people on board? So I'm throwing this one out there. I mean, I don't think that they're going to let go of the power and let it go to an election after this election. They're going to do everything that they can do to stay in power, which means including appeasing the Bloc Québécois as much as they want. They'll do whatever they want to stay in power because they're going to push. They have an agenda, right? Bill C-63 is back on the table. It's coming back. That's going through. They're going to
Blanchette is against energy. Blanchette said this week, he repeated it. There's no appetite for energy. Don't forget who they reelected, right? Guilbeault got back in. Freeland got back in. Joly got back in. And then we got a new nutcase. We got this Natalie Prévost or whatever. She's the one who founded that group, Poly Se Souvient. And they're the ones who've been pushing for a decade to ban guns. So that's a great picture. Like, what's the difference, right? Like, we want change. Like, what's the difference? What is the difference?
They got the puppet master instead of the puppet. That's what they got. The cabinet's the same.
Clyde, remember some of the MPs last month, like 2 months ago, Sean Miller or Fraser, Mark Miller, Sean Fraser. Fraser, I got to leave. It didn't look good for him in the polls. I need to spend more time with my family. There's 2 or 3 of them that said the same thing, and then they all reappeared. I'm surprised Omar Al-Hagra didn't decide to run again, or Miriam Monsef, or some of the other. Catherine McKenna. I'm surprised Catherine McKenna didn't reappear on the scene. Was
Omar not given a job in the cabinet though, or not in the cabinet, but in the PMO? I thought he was.
I'm sure he's going to have a job doing something, but he did not run as an MP. But behind the scenes, I always forget. Lametti's back in there.
Mr. Canadians don't have a fundamental right to property.
He was filmed walking in and out of the East Block, the PMO office today. Marco
incidentally,
Mendocino.
He's the guy who replaced Jody Wilson-Raybould,
right?
When they fired her. Essentially, they moved her to Indian Affairs or something else.
So nothing changed in terms of who got elected. I've been asked this question all day long. What changed? I'm like, nothing. As far as I'm concerned, the status quo. And I think Canadians were fooled. Boomers out east, you were fooled because Carney's first visit or first phone call was to Donald Trump, and that was a doozy. Like, wow, what did Donald Trump say? Like, you have that clip?
I do.
Or do we want to wait for that clip?
No. We'll play this clip. But this is basically like all the things that everybody was riled up about. Because let's not forget, this was all over TDS. This was all over Trump derangement syndrome, totally. And everybody got duped. And before people get mad at me for saying boomers, maybe you're a boomer. I don't have to caveat everything with not all. I'm not saying everybody, but there is a lot of boomers that got fooled. Let's just be honest. And if you're in the boomer group of people, you're not one of the fooled people. You're watching this show, but boomers got fooled. This is the case. And what do you know? It's actually Mark Carney was the guy that Donald Trump was happy to have. He said this before. I don't know why anyone didn't believe this before.
Frank, yeah. And yesterday he spoke about American betrayal. Are you interested in rebuilding relations with Canada? And if so, how?
No, well, I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, let's make a deal. He was running for office. They both hated Trump. And it was the one that hated Trump, I think the least that won. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy.
Why do you think?
No, I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer. And I congratulated him. It was a very mixed signal because it's almost even, which makes it very complicated for the country. It's a pretty tight race. but he's a very nice gentleman, and he's going to come to the White House very shortly, within the next week or less.
Mr.
President, when will you speak to
Well,
President?
there you have it, folks. I mean,
there you
yeah,
have it.
Trump even said, the conservatives hated me more, and everybody said that a vote for, I can't tell you how many times I heard that, right? A vote for Pierre was a vote for Trump, which is an extraordinarily weird connection because Trump ain't running anymore. But it turns out that a vote for Carney was a vote for Trump then.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah.
And Carney's not going to be a good negotiator. He's worried. He's worried more about his own business. Like, obviously, right away, what did he do when Trump put the tariffs on? He moved his business to New York. That's what he did. You think he cares about Canada? No, Canada is not first in his opinion. It's where can his business land? So he's going to do everything he can to carve out for his own appetite. He'll carve out tariffs, screw everybody else. That's what I predict for the economy moving forward. And, screw the West. That's really screw energy, like they've been trying to do. There again, because it's largely the same cabinet, they're not going to be changing their policy on any of this stuff. It's going to be more imaginary power in 2030, right? It's going to be ban automobiles, ban internal combustion engines. Like, this is ridiculous. It is absurd where we're going.
No,
I just made the assumption that it was all going to get canceled and somebody was going to come in and talk sense. No, we're going Sri Lanka. We're going Sri Lanka in Canada here.
And they like, even in his victory quick speech, he said, I'm going to work to unite Canadians. No, you're not. No, you're not. He's no different than Trudeau. The best strategy that the Liberals have developed in the last decade is division. Works like a charm for them. Works like a charm. So he's not about to reverse that. Like, and let's be blunt. You're right. Like, what would he do to Western Canada, to Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan to sort of appease us? That would mend those wounds. Is he going to say, hey, no caps on oil and gas, no caps on green energy? Hey, let's fire up the coal mines. Let's get going and let's start building pipelines. The things we want, he will never give them to us. He won't, because he's
got his next boogeyman. He's got his next boogeyman already. It's going to be the people in Alberta that want independence, that are tired of this deal that they have with Ottawa, and those are going to be the next boogeyman. This is their strategy. It's like it writes itself. It's crazy. But if people fall for it, then come on, like, you gotta smack some sense into people. This is crazy.
That's a big topic, and we got lots of time to cover the independence. Let's just finish on the election. Let's finish on Poilievre. Poor Pierre, right? Ran a pretty good fight. Do you think, looking back, what was his mistake? He didn't make a lot of mistakes. I mean, he had the odds were stacked against him. But do you think Pierre made a couple of any fatal mistakes?
You know where I'm going to go with this, right?
Go for it. I don't care. Like, I mean, you go wherever you want. It's an open question.
Okay, because I've been railing about this. People were, some people say it backed me. Some people were telling me, shut the heck up, Clyde. You've been saying this too much. Jenny Byrne, terrible campaign manager. The strategy of being liberal light, sucks. It's terrible. Trying to pretend he's not who he was. This was a terrible strategy. Coming out with PR Poilievre instead of Pierre Poilievre, not a great strategy. Sure, he got LASIK eye surgery. I'm not gonna dog on the guy for losing the glasses. Good luck. He's a good looking guy. Whatever. That's his thing. But then coming out with somber Pierre with the way he spoke in the debate, not a great strategy. Be the guy. Get out in the media. Give them every opportunity, because he's such a talented guy. Like, he's such a talented politician. Give them every opportunity to dog on him and let him dog back. But he was terrified. His whole team was terrified of the Trump connection, where I think that would have backfired if he would have just been able to come in and be himself in this way. Because
we're on the same page. Yeah, I mean, we're absolutely on the same. Remember, 3 weeks ago, we had a show almost dedicated to this. You and I were getting shit. I was getting shit for saying Pierre should be more conservative. And I was getting shit for saying Pierre should, like, he had the perfect example of what to do in Trump Next Door without being Trump, but do similar things to being Trump. Be bold, be conservative, talk about, ending or slowing down immigration and gaining control. Anyways, he didn't do any of those things. Weirdly, now people are actually saying you should. To me, I literally had people this week say, you should have pushed him harder. I'm like throwing my hands in the air. I'm like, you're giving me shit for pushing him to be conservative, and now you're giving me shit because I didn't push him hard enough. And by the way, I'm not Pierre's advisor. Clyde and I are just talking. We saw the writing on the wall, and we said he should have been more conservative. So, I don't know what's going to happen.
The one guy that was railing out against him was this Corey Tonight, right? And he was the campaign manager for Doug Ford. We can talk about Doug Ford all you want.
Yeah,
I think he's a flaming POS, that guy. He's really thrown the conservatives under the bus. I don't know how he walks around with a conservative badge on. He's the Liberal Party of Ontario. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's very much aligned with Carney. Has no.
Oh, he cozied up with Trudeau. He cozied up with Trudeau, and I'm not surprised. Absolutely, but so.
But that aside, his campaign manager Corey Tonight said everything that was accurate when he was on these podcasts, and people were railing on him for saying this. No, he's run a bad campaign. His campaign manager, terrible. Again, liberal light, that's a bad strategy for a conservative. There was a real thirst for somebody to come in with real conservative ideals, real conservative ideas, and pitch this to, again, a young audience. They chased after the boomers. They chased after the people that the liberals were brainwashing with the CBC. There's that apparatus. Let it be what it is, because it's going to be what it is. They should have been going on, and I'm going to say it, people needs to really listen to the caveat of this, not just go on podcasts. They needed to go on podcasts that were not political. He needed to go and get himself on podcasts where maybe they touch on politics, but largely aren't that, but have a young Canadian audience. Yeah. And I've been screaming this one from the hilltops, and we made a lot of loud noises about this, and the campaign decided finally that they were going to go on podcasts. And who did they podcast to? Conservative podcasts, people whose audiences are already voting for him. It made no effect. It did nothing to gain in the polls, to gain in the votes. It was just an exercise in wearing the candidate out at that point, if it's got no benefit to it. I was saying this specifically and explicitly. Don't bother with this show. We'd love to talk to you. That's great. But get on shows where people who are the audience don't know who you are, but would vote for you if they did. And that was a big tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to go through some of our old videos and some of the other videos and find some of the clips that, some of the thoughts we shared in the past, because I think we had some pretty good ideas, and unfortunately, Pierre's campaign didn't listen to us. But so now it brings up a big question: who's going to be Pierre? Who's going to be what's going to happen to Pierre? First of all, I mean, you and I, like, I think we were both shaking our heads. Like, we listened to his speech when he what do you call that? His speech is not his defeat speech,
a concession speech.
His concession speech. I didn't like his concession speech. I was surprised that he said he's staying on. In a sense, I'm okay that he's staying on. I mean, we can't be sacrificing all our leaders all the time, but we're in a tough boat. The Conservatives are in a tough situation right now. I heard that they're going to put Scheer back in as the temporary or as the leader of the opposition in the House of Commons, because Poilievre doesn't sit in the House of Commons. So somebody in the House of Commons has to be the official leader. And
so how does that work? Can they keep him on as leader but have an interim until he wins in a by-election or something?
Or he can stay, or Pierre can stay as the party leader and just not be sitting in the House. I mean, God, it's yeah, to be like, these are all rumors, but I would like the Conservatives to bring up some of the real good loyalists that have, the Larry Brocks of the world, or some of those guys, and give somebody else a chance at being the leader, somebody who's well spoken. Don't give it to Scheer, don't give it to O'Toole, don't give it to those guys. Like it's reward somebody else.
O'Toole's not part of the party anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Sorry. Yeah. But I mean, you like
no,
reward
one of those guys. Yeah, like a guy that. Yeah, I agree. Now, people were asking on social media, should the Conservatives ditch Pierre? And my response was, no, you should keep Pierre, or at least keep him in your circles so that, possibly get in a by-election or whatever. He's a great politician. You should ditch PR Poilievre, and PR Poilievre is not him. It's the team behind his campaign. Ditch that. Whoever that was, get rid of those people, fire them. You need, for the 21st century, you need 21st century thinkers when it comes to politics, because that's where the game will be won.
I look forward to seeing how some of the new crop do, like how Aaron Gunn does, and how who else was Andrew Lawton? Andrew
Lawton won his seat, yeah.
Aaron won his, right?
I believe Aaron won. Aaron won.
Aaron won his. So we got people like that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we still have there's still actually officially they're still counting. I mean, there was a few. There was some vote splitting that occurred with the PPC, and there's some places where the margin of victory was like under 150 votes. So there's some counting that has to occur. Yeah, that's an example, Brampton. And again, I was just giving this one as an example. I was not on a record as saying don't vote PPC because of vote splitting. I was saying don't vote PPC because it's a waste of a vote. Like I wasn't. I really seriously didn't think that that Max was interested in really winning. I think it proved out. I mean, he got 114,000 votes. So when I was telling people, my reasoning for telling people not to vote PPC was not because I was worried about vote splitting. I understand it can happen, but it technically happened for 2 or 3 seats at this point. This is an example. Like
for me, it became about, because the more and more I looked into Max Bernier and the People's Party, it became more about the person's party. There's no mechanism within the party to have a leadership race. There's no constitution, there's nothing, and there's no possibility of that ever happening. Now, Max Bernier jumped in and gave his spiel about this. So in the election, the PPC lost roughly 700,000.
What a weird way to start a speech.
I know, right? Like we
I lost 700,000 seats. Yeah, we did terrible. Okay.
Despite going in front of all of these people in American media, we lost 83% of the support. Suspected. Anyway, I'll TLDR it. He's saying it's not about vote splitting. Well, I'm just gonna reiterate this. No, it's not about vote splitting. It was about Max was running a campaign against the Conservatives. Why else would he go on Tucker Carlson, PBD podcast, Alex Jones? He's probably on others, only dogging Pierre Poilievre. Why wasn't he dogging
Carney,
he has
a reason that I can agree with, right? Like maybe like I've talked, Payman and some of the other PPC guys that we know, like they're reasonable people, right? Yes,
Payman is absolutely
yes. Max could have a good justification for existing, which could be that he's trying to pull the party to the right. I get that. Yes, Max, I'd love it if that's your raison d'être is to pull the party to the right. But the way you're doing it sucks. Yeah, but the way he's doing it sucks.
If that were the case, he wouldn't outright lie about where the party's position is. So what he said about the party is that their position is for uncontrolled mass immigration. That's not true. And that's not where the party sits on this. And now I'm going to throw this out at the fault of the Conservatives for not getting out on TV, getting out on podcasts, getting out everywhere to talk about this issue. They seem to shy away from it as much as possible. But when they did talk about it, it was very clear that they were against mass immigration. Like that's not even in question. But when you have people towing this line over and over and over again, and you're not out there defending yourself and your positions, well, everyone's just going to believe it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, that's just one example where mass immigration, gun laws, other things like Pierre, the Conservatives should come out and say, we're going to repeal the gun ban because it's a stupid law. That's what they should have said. And they were afraid to say it because, oh, we might alienate some people and we're not, we need to be closer to the middle. No, you say it's a stupid law and you're not reversing it because you're anti-liberal. You're not reversing it because you're pro-gun. You're reversing it because it's a stupid law. And you emphasize the stupidity. I'm shutting down immigration, not because I'm anti-immigration. We're shutting down immigration for a couple of years because immigration is causing nothing but problems. And if people don't want to see that because they got the blinders on, don't worry about it because they're never going to vote for you anyway. So,
I'll give them credit. When it did come to the question of immigration, Pierre was very straightforward that the old immigration was good when it was based on merits, and this unfettered immigration and backdoors to immigration is very bad. I'll give him credit on having that position, even though he didn't, he wasn't out there shouting it from the hilltops. On the gun thing, a little bit watered down. I didn't like the position by saying like we're not going to take Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle and then hint at sports shooting as if that was like a dog whistle to people who own pistols or any of this other stuff that's been banned by the government. And I would say illegally banning stuff. Like what is the purpose for banning any of this stuff? It's awful. It really is. So, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I think it was pretty soft. It was not hard hitting. It was watered down, and that's what we got.
What do you think Carney's first bill will be? Of like historically, they make 50 promises and they only hold one. So Trudeau over the years made 40 promises. He delivered on 3 of them. So which promise will Carney actually deliver on, and which ones will he drag his feet forever?
I think the big promise he has is the reintroduction of the Online Harms Act. That's, for people who don't know, that's Bill C-63. And they failed to produce that one. It was they ended up having to split it into 2 bits because it was really getting exposed for what it was. And then they largely just they walked away from it because they prorogued Parliament and then called an election. So it's gone, but he's already promised to reintroduce it. That's one.
Do you think he'll deliver his little tax break that he offered, like his 0.5% on the middle tax bracket? He'll probably do that one. He'll throw that one, kind of like the carbon tax. Hey, I gave you a quick tax break, and then don't expect much from Carney.
I think much of what he wrote in his book are more like promises that will come out. So you're going to see a lot more of taxation. All the boomers that were so happy to have him because of their equity in their homes. He's coming after that. He's going to come that.
The capital gains inclusion rate, which they never passed anyways, right? Like, I mean, that kerfuffle around there, they'll put it back to 62.5 or whatever it was.
It was going to go up to 67%.
67.
Yeah. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see out of this government unrealized capital gains. This was something that Joe Biden tried to pass in the United States. That one got squashed, but in Canada, you put elbows up and they'll shut up and they'll listen to whatever. But unrealized capital gains for people who are homeowners, realize this, that every time your property gets reassessed at a new value, that's going to be a tax bill in the mail that you're going to have to pay. And they're coming for it. They're coming for every penny.
And I suspect they never talked about this, but I suspect maybe some increased probate or death taxes of some sort, because there's a lot of money sitting out there. So they'll tax the boomers when they're dead. One thing I was surprised that never came out. The Liberals must have been fairly confident all along. They never pulled the UBI card. I was a bit shocked that never came out. The
universal basic income.
Yeah. Maybe they'll save that one for another election. Hey,
abortion was briefly talked about, but then it didn't last. So they were confident.
I think let's get off this topic, but I think we'll be back in an election probably in a year from now. I think it's going to be fragile if the government can. I don't think it's the same coalition as before. Like it'll depend on who the NDP choose as a leader and how the bloc is. I mean, Blanchette was pretty blunt, like remember at the debate, Blanchette said, "You haven't called me yet." So he was very critical.
What's the date, folks?
What's
today's April? What's the date? You want to put another bottle of whiskey on this one?
Another bottle of whiskey that a year from now,
April 3rd, April 30th.
April 30th, we in the next 12 months, the government is defeated. Sure.
I don't think they will be. Like,
we're tied at this point. So
yeah. So I think that the government, they're going to try to last the whole 4 years if they possibly can. I don't think they're going to get defeated. I don't see the Bloc Québécois taking them down. I see the Bloc Québécois very interested in a liberal minority because they'll get more out of a liberal minority than they would get out of a conservative minority or a conservative majority. So they're in better shape now politically than they would be in any other situation.
They're in good. Okay, so now that's a perfect segue. The Bloc trying to garner favors from the federal government and everything else. One of the issues that Carney is going to have to deal with now is they opened a can of worms with this victory. The country is divided, and the separatist movement in Alberta and Saskatchewan, I suspect maybe even a little bit in BC, but definitely in Alberta and Saskatchewan, the separatist movement got a huge boost this week, and Carney's going to have to deal with that.
So the big boost being mentioned here is the fact that, well,
people are fed up. I mean,
Alberta has a chance.
People are fed up, right? Like, actually, we talked about this on the show. Oh, by the way, kudos, right? Let's do a quick shout out to Sean Newman and Twos and you for pretty much organizing an awesome election day live stream that went on for like 12 hours, man. Like, how many different viewers tuned into that show over time on all the platforms? Like 300,000, right?
Way more than that. More than that. Yeah. Because I think it peaked around like 80 something thousand. It was really crazy. And that was concurrent viewers. So like this is streaming across different platforms, so it wasn't just on YouTube. So lots of people watched on this YouTube channel, but people were watching on Twitter, people were watching elsewhere, and it was humongous. It was at the point where more people were watching than the CBC, or CTV, Global, anybody. Most of the day, there was one point where the CBC passed our stream and then fell back behind it.
Bingo. So, okay, so kudos. So bring it back. So on that show, near the end, when we started seeing the results, people started waxing poetic and whatnot. And we were talking about the fact that I knew after the election that you and I, me as an Albertan, we're going to be accused by the East of being sore losers again. They're going to go, you guys are sore. You lost fair and square. You're sore losers. No, it's an unwinnable battle for us. And this election showed it. And we're tired of being kicked and abused, and we'll never get a fair deal. And so this election proves it once and for all. Like, for me, I've always been saying Confederation's pretty much broken experiment at this point. This election proves it again. We get 41% of the vote, and it doesn't matter. The Liberals throw everything they got at it, and they steal an election from us. And people are saying we're whining. We're not whining. You're going to see something really extraordinary happen. And people woke up and said, no, that's fine. This was a last chance to do this. It's not a fair game. And now we're going to try and force the game. So here in Alberta this week, we had already been preparing for a referendum. We have a group called the Alberta Prosperity Project that had built a website and asked people to pre-register, because the existing rules for a referendum in Alberta, they're probably similar to most provinces, but if we want the government to put a referendum as a question to the people, we need to force them to do it. And in order to do that, in the past, we needed something like 250,000 hand-collected signatures, and we needed to collect the signatures in 90 days. So we were prepared for that. We started collecting a database of people that were interested in a separation referendum. Two things happened this week. A, the popularity of that website exploded. We collected 100,000 registrations today alone. Wow. Just in one day, 100,000 people registered saying they intend to vote yes. 100,000 people registered saying they're willing to, they want the premier to at least pose a question, have a referendum.
Put it on the ballot. Yes.
Put it on the ballot. So that's step one. And that might happen in a year from now or years from now, whatever. I mean, we have to be prepared. But then the other thing that was really remarkable is Danielle Smith actually gave us a real boost. She's like, I'm going to make the rules for citizen engagement even easier. You don't need 600,000 signatures. You need, don't quote me exactly, like 15.
I'll tell you exactly. Let me tell you exactly. So
sure.
The way it was written before, it was really stacking it against everybody. It had to be 20% of registered voters, which in Alberta is 600,000 people. Then it was also broken up between like the different places. So you couldn't just get it all from one region. You had to get it spread out evenly. Yeah, evenly. And then you only had 90 days to accomplish that. Now, don't get this wrong. The premier can just put it on the ballot if the premier wanted to.
Oh yeah, she could do it, right?
Citizen-led initiative, and this is a requirement for a citizen-led initiative. Now, this all changed. Here's Keith Wilson put this out here. Huge win for Alberta sovereignty. Premier Smith updated citizens initiative slashes referendum signature requirement from 600,000 to 177,000, which you almost pulled off in a day. That's only 10% of the last election's voters instead of the entire electorate.
Yep.
Being 20%, and extends the collection of it from 90 days to 120 days. This is a pretty big thing. Now here's Danielle Smith talking about it.
We are expanding opportunities for Albertans to be involved in direct democracy by making changes to the threshold needed for successful citizens initiatives. The signature collection time for citizens initiatives will be extended from 90 days to 120 days. We are also improving the process by setting the threshold to be 10% of the number of eligible voters who participated in the last general election, as opposed to being either 10 or 20% of total registered voters. We are
that makes it a lot. Here's the keywords. Here's the keywords.
Yeah.
That they're going to have a hard time coming after her for. We are expanding democracy. We are giving more democracy to the people. Dude, like I'm not kidding.
Bingo.
That is the most politically aware thing to put in that speech, because you can't argue with that.
She's and what she's doing in effect is she's turning to the people and saying, I think I already have your backing, but I'm taking so much shit as an individual premier. I need the whole support. So now if we get behind her and we give her these things like a referendum, man, we're really, really enabling her. And think of and people say, oh, separation would be, or a sovereignty could be 10, 15 years ago. Sure, got it. But man, think of the message that this sends to Carney and the Liberals and the people out east. Like, we're not going to stand for this bullshit of paying equalization payment and getting nothing in return and being taken for granted. So if there's a referendum and 1 million people vote saying, hey, Danielle, please start the negotiation, that's a power. In fact, it's so powerful, Clyde, that the attack started immediately. I got attacked viciously today, and there were attacks on everybody. Suddenly, Albertans, people in Ontario started calling us traitors. It's like, wow, make up your minds, folks. Like I know what you want in Ontario. You want us to be good little citizens, produce a little bit of oil, pay our taxes, and send a whole bunch of transfer payments over to the east. And you don't want us to question anything and demand anything in return. Well, we're not going to do that. And it's funny because we're being accused of being traitors. Like, oh, okay, like, yeah, the movement got a boost.
Well, I mean,
today.
I mean, talking about transfer payments, I mean, just looking at these two pictures alone right here, this is Claire D saying it out there for Americans or anyone else who doesn't know. Here are two maps. The dark blue is the Conservatives vote. The other colors further east are Liberal NDP bloc. The second map shows the Conservatives vote in Canada will never matter. And this is, of course, the fact that we're looking at the electoral map, but then we're also looking at where the transfer payments go. More 000 coming out of the provinces that are, well, the main one that is looking to gain its own independence, and all those millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Those are billions. Leave that up, Clyde. I just want to point out something. What was the name of the gentleman who brought this up in the second hour of the podcast on Monday? The guy from Halifax. What was his name?
I'm
Was
drawing a
it
blank.
Ian McAllister or something like that? Or anyways, a guy from Halifax who came on our show, he brought this up to us. That, you know, if you look in the Maritimes, you got 3.1 billion sort of going to Nova Scotia, and then you got 3.5 billion going to New Brunswick, or maybe I got him around. But he basically said that 1/4 of each of those provinces' provincial budget is funded by Ottawa, and further, the money that Ottawa, you can trace it back to equalization payments, and it comes from
a quarter of their budget.
A quarter of their budgets. So, you know, yeah, people from the Maritimes, people from PEI, sure. Like, of course, now that we're talking serious separation and threatening that, now you'll use every tool at your disposal to stop us from separating. And I equate this.
I really have to show this. I have to
go
show
ahead.
this.
Absolutely.
Because people I kept hearing, don't trust the polls, don't listen to the polls. And also there's no support for this in Alberta.
Yeah.
This goes back to 2019, where they try to say this is where the 31 number comes from. You've heard the number 31% support this. This is where I love diving into these statistics, because this is how you lie with statistics. So this poll that was done in January of 2019 actually shows that 31% are strongly in favor of a Western separatist movement in Alberta. Strongly in favor. 29% are moderately in favor of that. Now, if you broke this up, so and then there's moderately opposed and strongly opposed. If you add up the people who are on board with it, that's 60%. That's a 60% vote.
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Do you think things have gotten worse for the province? Do you think things are a little bit swayed more for the province? This is where I'm getting at. The support is really there. It's not a joke. This is a serious thing, and it's doable. And I don't live in Alberta, and I'm rooting for Alberta and Alberta's independence, because I see what's going on. It's just absolutely astonishing.
Yep.
I don't have a stake in the game. If anything, I living in British Columbia, we'd lose out. But this is what's fair. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely not. It's what's fair, and then it's easy for people to criticize the people who are gaining and benefiting. It's easy for them to accuse others of being just, you know, sore losers or whatever. It's different when you're on the receiving end than on the giving end all the time. So, I mean, you know, and when we talk about this, we often give the analogy of a relationship, because people say you can't leave Canada. You know, it wouldn't be the same. Would you say, you know, if your neighbors are having a fight and your married neighbors are having a fight and they try and work it out for 15 years and it just doesn't work out, would you go to Betty and say, well, Betty, you got to stay with Larry because, you know, think of whatever? No, if somebody's completely unhappy in a relationship, you don't tell them to stay in that unhappy relationship, especially if they tried to work it out. So, yeah.
There's another angle. There's a whole other angle to this, and this is, I kind of alluded at this at the beginning of the live stream.
Are the comments exploding on all of this? I haven't even looked. Like
they are. We're gonna get into that, and don't tune away when we finish the chat portion of this. We're gonna get into the Q&A, so don't tune away. It's coming up in just a few minutes here because we're running late. I want to make this last point before we finish off this chat. The big thing here is that the tool that they're going to use to try to squash independence in Alberta is the 51st state. They're going to use the Trump derangement syndrome game again, and they're going to make anybody who wants to be an independent in Alberta and get away from the control from Ottawa, they're going to say, you're Donald Trump people, you're 51st state. And Cory Morgan actually gave a fair warning on this movement, and he said, well, I'll let him speak for himself. This is what he said. Oh, sorry, I was on the wrong stream. Let's get that over here.
The other thing is the US 51 thing. guys, put it on the back burner. Do not, again, one step at a time. If indeed that's the way Albertans, Saskatchewan citizens want to go, it will only happen after an independence referendum. And you try to have a referendum straight to the US 51 thing. I don't even think it's possible under any legislations, but you're dividing the movement, because there's a heck of a lot of independent supporters, but they're Alberta first, they're Saskatchewan first. They want out of the Federation, but they don't want to leap into the United States, even if they love the USA and a lot of the policies and things like that. You're cutting the support in half of something that's already not enough, doesn't have enough support to win the independence vote. So, I mean, you can talk about US 51, but if you think you can leap straight to some sort of thing, negotiate straight with the United States, have President Trump march on in here and take Alberta or Saskatchewan as US 51, I tell you what, that's a pure failure, and dividing your movement. So don't. Keep laser focused. Independence. Out of the broken federation that doesn't serve the West and will never serve the West. Keep your eyes on the prize. How do you get out of that?
Keep your eyes on the prize. That's a great
I mean, Corey's a friend. He wrote a book called, the Alberta Sovereignist. So he knows what he's talking about. And I 100% agree. I mean, you know me. I know you're a dual citizenship. I'm not an American, have no interest in being in the US at this time. And I'd even go further. Like Corey's right. Independent. You need to practice being sovereign and independent. Probably for decades. Like Texas had to do it for 8 years. Puerto Rico's still waiting. Alaska did it for 50 years before they could join, right? So it's so part the 51 state, practice being sovereign. And even now, we've been arguing here in Alberta, even before we practice being sovereign, we should actually do things that are 100% in our purview and do them like Quebec did. We should have had our own pension plan, our own police force, start taking control of our immigration and do all those things. So we're still, thank you, Corey. That's 100%. Like I fully agree with that. Don't get ahead of yourselves, folks.
And don't think that this is not something, let's be honest. It would be beneficial if Alberta was an independent state, not a United States state, but an independent state. They can negotiate with the United States all they want.
Yep.
They could do it on their own terms. It's already beneficial. Like it's already so much more beneficial. The idea that you're imagine this. You no longer have a federal tax bill. You no longer have to pay GST in Alberta. All of these things that would just be immediately beneficial. So Alberta could take all that money that goes.
I started smiling. Look at me.
Right.
Like stop teasing.
Yeah, you don't need to involve the US federal government in that whole idea, but you can negotiate with them and have a better deal on trade. Let's just I'm just going to throw that one out there. That's a good one, but just remember that the Carneys, the Liberals, all of them, they're going to try to thwart the whole movement by making it about Donald Trump. It's never been about Donald Trump, and it's not going to be about Donald Trump. This is how you win this. The support's there. I think it really is. Yep. Marty, where can people find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter, of course, and Marty Up North on YouTube.